The Agricultural and Rural Development Authority are skilled and experienced in animal and crop management. Hello, I am PJ Nagoli and welcome to this year's edition of the ZITF, running under the theme Innovation, the Catalyst to Industrialization and Trade. Today, we speak to ARDA CEO, Mr. Tinotenda Miko. Mr. Miko, thank you so much for finding time to speak to us.
You're welcome.
Now, for the longest of time, the name ARDA has been spoken about across the length and breadth of the nation of Zimbabwe. For those who do not know what you guys are all about, what is the role of ARDA?
So the role of ARDA is to spearhead rural development and industrialization, as well as guaranteeing national food, feed, fiber, biofuels, and seed security for the country in pursuit of Vision 2030. And our role and mandate is anchored on the NDS1 and Vision 2030 blueprints, as well as the agriculture, food systems, and rural transformation strategy.
You speak of Vision 2030 there, a key point and a pillar in the National Development Strategy 1, which seeks to fundamentally transform Zimbabwe into an upper middle income society by 2030. Now, rural areas are a key and integral part of this achievement by government. As ARDA, how significant and how far have you gone in terms of the rural development, and how significant is this in terms of contributing to industrialization and trade?
Okay. Thank you for that. We have made significant and tremendous progress in terms of rural development and industrialization. So let me start with the Rural Development 8.0 program, which is a cocktail of presidential and outcome-based interventions that economically empower over 3 million households that reside in the rural areas. So just to list the components of the Rural Development 8.0, there's the Presidential Climate-Proofed Pfumvuza or Intwasa scheme. Then there's the Presidential Climate-Proofed Cotton scheme. Then there's the Presidential Rural Development Program. I'll come back to that. Then there's the Presidential Poultry Program. Then there's the Presidential Goat Scheme. There's the Presidential Community Fisheries Scheme. There's the Presidential Least Tigris Program. And lastly, there's the Presidential Vision 2030 Accelerator Model. Yeah. So you'll find that these interventions are income-generating programs, right? That generate household income across these rural households. And for us to say that we are in 2030, we are targeting an income per capita per household of a minimum of 4,000 US dollars by 2030. So you find that the cocktail of these interventions, they bring in significant revenue per household towards the attainment of Vision 2030. So that's the first step, right? So I'll just give you an example of the Presidential Rural Development Program, where we are rolling out in a whole of a government and a whole of a sector approach, 35,000 village business units across the 35,000 villages in the country, one in each village. And we are now operating them as companies, hence the name business unit at the end, right? So these are horticulture gardens that are powered by a solar-driven bore, and the production is market-led. They are also equipped with 2 fish ponds, and each fish pond is stocked with 2 tons of fish, meaning they harvest 8 tons of fish annually, because we harvest fish twice a year, right? And the production is run at the back of a viable, profitable, sustainable, and sound business case to guarantee profitability and viability, as well as continuity of these business units, right? So the rollout is based on 3 tenets. Number 1, provision of water for agricultural purposes to the household beneficiaries, and provision of water for agricultural purposes. Then number 2, for nutritional security, due to the high protein content in the fish and the high concentration of vitamins in the vegetables. Then lastly, to restore the dignity of our women and girls who used to walk for those long distances to fetch water with buckets on their forehead, as well as they used to get abused at those water points. So those are the tenets, right? Then further to that, we are also rolling out in the whole of a government, whole of a sector approach, 9,600 school business units. So it's basically the same model, but this is now targeting schools.
Okay.
Then 68 vocational training center business units. Then there's also 4,800 youth business units, 2 youth business units across the 2,400 wards in Zimbabwe, right? Then on top of that, we are also managing in a whole of a sector approach the 460 irrigation scheme business units in the country, sitting on 26,000 hectares, right? We've also registered them as companies under the Companies and the Other Entities Act, right? So you'll find that just look at the balance sheet of these 460 irrigation schemes. It's as close as $3 billion United States dollars. If you try to imagine even the balance sheet of just the 35,000 village business units, once the rollout is complete, it's massive. So this unlocks credit for the household beneficiaries, right? And it presents an opportunity for a balance sheet to have their own assets, to access loans for both working capital and capex, etc., all those things, right? So another component which manages this whole village business unit is part of the Rural Development 8.0 program, which is the V30 accelerator model, the Presidential Vision 2030 accelerator model, which is basically a productivity enhanced model where production is done at the back of a business case, again, sound, profitable, viable, and sustainable business case to guarantee profitability and continuity, right? In this model, the household beneficiaries are both employees and shareholders of these schemes. During the course of the season, we calculate the labor days, right? We determine the labor required during the season, and they are paid NEC for agriculture regulated wages when they harvest and market the produce. The profit after tax is shared equal amongst the households as a dividend. So they are both employees and shareholders of the scheme. The model makes them, or they've become active economic participants instead of spectators in farming. And the model has also moved our production from peasant and subsistence farming to surplus and commercially oriented production, right? Basically, which is mass production, giving rise to industrialization, dovetailing to our currently running ZITF theme, right? So just to give you a summary of the impact. So you will find that if we add the 35,000 village business units on 35,000 hectares, the 68 vocational training center business units on 68 hectares, the 9,600 school business units on 9,600 hectares, the 4,800 youth business units on 4,800 hectares, plus the 26,000 hectares sitting on the 460 irrigation scheme business units. That gives you about 75,468 hectares, right, in terms of hectarage that can be unlocked, irrigable, right? And the potential gross revenue is 1.8 billion. And the moment we value add, our profitability quadruples to about $7.5 billion per year. So that's game changing in terms of GDP for the country, national GDP, provincial GDPs, because no place, no village, no what is going to be left behind. We are targeting all the villages. And we are implementing, like I said earlier on, in a whole of a government, a whole of a sector approach, just to mention our implementing agencies. We are working with ARMA for market-led production, the source for the markets, Zimtrade, the source for the export markets, Department of Irrigation and our partner ministry. They come in with irrigation infrastructure development. Zinwa is also our critical key partner, coming in with bore drilling and even dam construction for the irrigation schemes. Then we have Agri-Techs under the Agricultural Advisory and Rural Development Services, which is ARDAS, under the parent ministry. We also work with them in terms of training, extension, etc., all those things. So the implementation has helped to break down the silos, the unnecessary efficiencies, etc., improving our operational efficiencies. So basically, this is what we are doing on the raw crop production side of the rural development and industrialization mandate. Then let me quickly jump into value addition and beneficiation. You'll find that we are deploying micro-processing plants at district level for value addition and beneficiation of all the produce. Remember, I spoke of mass production, which catalyzes the industrialization, right? For value addition and beneficiation of all the produce that is coming from the raw irrigation schemes. Then at what level for the village business units? We are deploying aggregation centers as well as value addition centers to build the economies of scale, to address issues of profitability, of perishability, etc. All those things, right? And you find that this agricultural development causes the rural industrialization, rural agro-industrialization, which in turn spares what we call rural development. So basically, the improved production and productivity that has been caused by our agricultural innovations that I'm going to outline has unlocked the nexus between the rural agro-industrialization and the rural development.
And this is happening at homestead level?
It's happening at household level. We have launched these models. Bubi Lupani was launched by His Excellency the President in September 2021. We launched the village business units in Mangwe as well in 2021. We launched the school business units last year. We launched the vocational training center business unit model in Mushagashe this year. These things are running. This is not talk. I'm outlining what the proof of concept have been done and dusted. They are running. We are now scaling up, and we've got targets by 2025, some by 2028, that we're chasing, that we need to achieve.
You mentioned all of these achievements that are being done by ARDA. However, it is regrettable that the agricultural sector, being one of the 3 largest sectors in the nation of Zimbabwe, has been hit hard this year as a result of the El Nino-induced drought, which has led His Excellency President Emmerson Mnangagwa to actually declare a state of disaster over the matter. Given that we are here at the ZITF, of course, in line with the theme innovation, what are some of the innovative solutions that ARDA is going to bring to try and attempt to alleviate the impacts of this drought?
All right. So I will start by giving you the food security context. Just a summary. I'm sure the guidance, you have gone through it, that came from our parent ministry, right? So assuming there are 3 human consumption scenarios where people or the population consume 1.8 million tons per year at 8.5 kgs at 10 kgs per household per year, assuming the 100% consumption, right? Then there's another scenario where they consume, I think it's about 1.5 million metric consumption at a average consumption of 8.5 kgs per person per year. Then lastly, the scenario C, where they consume 1.4 million tons at an average of 7.7 kilograms per household per year. So if we get into the current strategic grain reserve, you'll find that we have 189,568 metric tons of maize currently, plus 244,704 metric tons of wheat, plus 143,964 metric tons of small grains. Then the winter game plan. As a country, we're doing 120,000 hectares of irrigated wheat, but as ARDA, we're going to do 60,000 hectares, 15,000 hectares from the irrigation scheme business units, about 3,000 hectares from our estates, and the rest from the joint venture program, which we're implementing again in a whole of a government approach, working with agri-techs and agricultural advisory and rural development services in the parent ministry, grain marketing board, AFC, etc., all those key players in the program, right? And from this 120,000 hectares that is being done nationally, a target of 600,000 metric tons of wheat has been set, and we are confident it will be achieved because this is an irrigated crop now. Then further to that, we're expecting to do about 3,200 hectares of winter maize and sorghum to target 10,000 metric tons, right? So cumulatively, this gives us 1,278,236 metric tons of grain, right? But this gives us a deficit of 318,723 metric tons, assuming scenario C. Remember, I gave you the three main consumption scenarios, right? So our game plan now is to base our food security plan based on the winter wheat crop. Why? Because as a country we have a big competitive and comparative advantage of growing wheat against maize. Wheat does well in winter, and there's potential 120,000 hectares that can be done of irrigated wheat. So it's better to maximize on what we can do so that the excess can be used to unlock value to get alternatives, right? So going back to our game plan. So remember, the scenarios were based on 100% assumption. To say someone is going to eat, for example, during lunch hour, during
breakfast.
during dinner, every day.
Okay.
And it assumes everyone. But now our assumptions are going to assume that only 85% are going to consume maize and traditional grains, because with the growing youth population, people are now resorting to alternatives. I'm sure even you yourself, do you eat sadza during lunch and dinner every day? You go for rice, you go for French fries, you go for potatoes, etc. That's why we are going to assume 85% consumption being maize and traditional grains throughout the year, right? So if we do that, it will help us to address that deficit that I was telling you about. Then you will find that we are also, the government has resolved to purchase grain, local grain at import price in US dollars to mop up any excess local grain, etc. All those things. Then I've spoken about the new strategic grain reserve concept where ARDA is going to do 60,000 hectares of wheat. So it's also an intervention measure. Then accelerated presidential rural development program. So we've been given a target of doing 10,000 village business units by end of this year across the country, also as a drought mitigation measure. Remember, they are powered by solar-driven poles. Then national irrigation development, because across our estates we are trying to mobilize resources to unlock more irrigable land to climate-proof our production in the advent of El Nino, something like that. So these are some of the measures. Then for livestock, it has not been spared. So you'll find that we are going to do 544,000 hay bales for our livestock. For supplementary feeding, constructing 1,000 troughs for our cattle as well, as a mitigation measure for our livestock. So basically these are some of the interventions. So going to innovations, I believe the food security context that I've just given you is a very huge innovation. Of course, it's going to address the situation that we're faced with. Then going into our technological innovations, I'll start with our digital platform. We have developed a digital USSD platform that is accessible on a feature phone anywhere in the country, across the country. And you'll find that working with 3 million rural households across the country might be expensive when it comes to extension services. So sometimes we cut down this cost through e-extension, because the platform has got training and advisory module, which handles the farmers from the point of production up until the harvest and market the produce. It's also equipped with information service module, where we disseminate information about weather vagaries, weather alerts, etc., using satellite imagery. Farmers can also access equipment, mechanization through the platform. It's also integrated with a payment gateway, both for USD and ZIG. So it's a one-stop shop for the farmer. They can process their payments, they can procure their inputs, etc. So that's the first innovation. Then we are also doing a lot of remote sensing and GIS. We monitor our crops using satellite imagery. We monitor our hectarage using satellite imagery. And when it comes to crop monitoring, we are monitoring mainly crop health and status using the NDVI technology, etc. And like I said earlier on, with satellite imagery as well. Then we use a lot of IoT. Our soil tensiometers are equipped with Internet of Things devices that actually tracks the moisture requirements for a certain crop. Then as we do our irrigation development, we are now using precision irrigation systems, IoT controlled, center pivots that are actually equipped with IoT devices. Then we are also doing a lot of work around regenerative agriculture, where we are building, it's basically sustainable farming, where we focus on building soil health and nutrition. I'll give an example of Bumbi Lupane, which was launched by His Excellency in 2021 in the desert Calarisens of Lupane, where we established a bountiful wheat crop. Thriving wheat crop was established in the desert Calarisens of Lupane, and a bountiful harvest was achieved.
So these are some of the innovations that the Agricultural and Rural Development Authority are currently engaged in as they push their pursuit to develop rural areas and their pursuit to ensure that each and every Zimbabwean is food secure. Thank you so much, Mr. Miko, for giving us your time. That was the Agricultural and Rural Development Authority, leading by farming.